Star Trek's best Section 31 movie is the one they aren't making. Star Trek has always thrived on the tension between ideals and pragmatism. From Kirk's daring heroics to Picard's moral deliberations, the franchise balances utopian optimism with human or alien flaws. But if there's a part of Star Trek that revels in moral ambiguity, it's Section 31. The shadowy intelligence agency, lurking behind the Federation's idealistic veneer, embodies the cold calculus of survival. And yet, despite decades of hints, teases, and half-baked storylines, Star Trek has never fully delivered a Section 31 movie worthy of the agency's mythos. Ironically, the best Section 31 movie isn't the one in production, it's the one they aren't making. Section 31, Star Trek's Darkest Mirror. Before diving into the movie that should exist, it's important to understand why Section 31 fascinates fans. Introduced in Deep Space Nine during the Dominion War arc, Section 31 is a clandestine organization tasked with protecting the Federation at any cost, even when those costs compromise the very ideals the Federation claims to uphold. Where Starfleet officers like Kirk, Picard, or Burnham act openly, Section 31 thrives in shadows, often breaking laws, manipulating events, and morally gray decision-making in pursuit of the greater good. They are the antithesis of Starfleet's idealistic vision, a necessary evil, a dark mirror showing what the Federation might become if it abandoned ethics entirely. Yet, for all its potential, Star Trek's cinematic universe has largely ignored the organization. There was a fleeting Section 31 subplot in Discovery, and the idea of a Section 31 film has circulated in rumors, but nothing has truly captured the nuance, tension, and moral complexity the agency deserves. The movie that should exist, the Section 31 movie that Star Trek fans deserve, isn't a simple spy thriller. It isn't about agents running missions off-screen to justify the heroic actions of a main cast. It's a moral thriller, a meditation on what happens when an organization's secrecy undermines everything the Federation stands for. The premise: the Federation faces a mysterious, existential threat, something so advanced that conventional diplomacy and Starfleet deployment are futile. Starfleet proposes a measured approach, but Section 31 steps in, operating entirely in secret. The catch: the threat may not even be real, it could be a false flag, a test, or an enemy manipulating perception. And Section 31 has already decided that failure is unacceptable, even if that means bending or breaking fundamental laws. From the start, the movie should establish tension between Section 31 agents and Starfleet officers who believe in transparency. Imagine a scene where a Section 31 operative manipulates sensor logs to mislead Starfleet admirals, only to be confronted by a principled officer who insists the Federation is not a government affair. The operative responds, stone-faced, the Federation doesn't survive on ideals. It survives on results. This line encapsulates Section 31's allure: cold, calculating efficiency in a universe where optimism often fails. A focus on character, not gadgets. One reason Section 31 stories work best is that they are character-driven, not spectacle-driven. Star Trek has flirted with this idea, but never fully realized it on the big screen. A perfect Section 31 movie would follow a small cast of morally complex agents, each wrestling with their role in the shadows. There could be a veteran operative who has seen too much, quietly questioning the organization's methods, and a younger recruit whose idealism clashes with the cold pragmatism of their mission. Their dynamic would be the emotional core of the story, a human lens through which audiences witness the tension between ethics and survival. Imagine a subplot where the veteran operative secretly aids a Starfleet officer they respect, creating suspense without resorting to explosions or alien invasions. The stakes aren't measured in starships destroyed, they're measured in integrity, loyalty, and conscience. That's what would make the film resonate with longtime fans. Subtle world building. Unlike typical blockbuster Star Trek fare, a Section 31 movie should rely on subtle world building to create tension. The agency is most compelling when it operates in the background, manipulating events without public awareness. The movie could show Section 31's influence in politics, commerce, and Starfleet operations, but always through implication rather than exposition. For instance, a seemingly routine diplomatic mission could be sabotaged in ways that only become clear later, revealing Section 31's hand. Or a scientific breakthrough could be redirected toward military purposes, forcing the protagonist to question whether progress is ever morally neutral. These are the moments where Star Trek excels. Thoughtful, layered storytelling that lingers long after the credits roll. Moral ambiguity at its core. The key to the best Section 31 story is moral ambiguity. There is no pure villain, no simple resolution. Section 31 agents might save billions of lives, but at the cost of their humanity or the Federation's reputation. Starfleet officers might fight for transparency, yet unwittingly enable catastrophe by adhering to rules too rigidly. The movie could culminate in a scenario where the audience must decide whether Section 31's actions were justified. Did the ends justify the means, or did the agency compromise the very principles it claimed to defend? A closing scene could leave the question deliberately unanswered, with the protagonist walking away, knowing that the Federation's shadow is now inextricable from its light. Why this movie isn't being made? Given how well Section 31 fits into Star Trek's mythos, why hasn't a proper movie been made? There are several reasons. 1. Risk aversion. Star Trek movies have historically leaned on optimism and spectacle rather than moral darkness. Studios may fear that a film focused on espionage, ethical compromise, and subtle intrigue wouldn't attract a broad audience. 2. Continuity concerns. Section 31's actions often contradict the idealistic Federation we see in other films. Balancing canon while exploring the agency's shadowy operations is tricky. For example, how do you reconcile Section 31's morally dubious methods with the Federation's public reputation? 3. Misunderstood tone. Many creators have tried to shoehorn Section 31 into Star Trek's traditional adventure formula: space battles, alien invasions, and high-stakes action. But the agency's stories thrive on tension, secrecy, and moral gray zones, not heroics. Simplifying them risks flattening the very complexity that makes Section 31 compelling. Ironically, these challenges are exactly what would make a Section 31 movie remarkable. Star Trek has rarely taken risks with moral ambiguity on the big screen, and a film exploring the Federation's shadow could redefine the franchise for a new generation. Inspiration from other media. While no official Section 31 movie exists, Star Trek fans can look to hints in Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, and Discovery for inspiration. Episodes like Inquisition and Inter Arma Enim Silent Ledges reveal the agency's manipulative methods and moral ruthlessness. These stories show that Section 31 thrives in the gray areas, and the best movie would expand on this foundation rather than rehash it. Outside Star Trek, the film could take cues from moral thrillers like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy or Zero Dark 30. Both emphasize tension, secrecy, and human complexity over spectacle. A Section 31 movie could be a Star Trek version of these thrillers, visually stunning, emotionally charged, and intellectually provocative.